Hi everyone, I'm at Project 3. Welcome back to your third and final part of your lesson for today. Now, in this final part of your lesson, I'm just going to do a quick review of past simple and continuous, articles, and present perfect. Also as well, I'm going to be explaining to you what you have to do for your exam, what you're going to be doing for your next part of your exam, alright? Which I will explain later in this video, and also talk to you in a quick introduction about Trinity, but next week I'll be going into more detail about Trinity and also outlining what you will have to do over Easter as well. Okay, so over the course of this term, we have looked at many different things. So, for example, we looked at disasters, we looked at past simple and past continuous. Now remember, last year when we were in Project 2, you did present simple and present continuous and the differences between it. Now remember, past simple is when we talk about an action that has already happened in the past. It's completed, done, finito. It's completely done. Whereas past continuous is talking about a past action that happened in a moment in the past. So that's why we have past continuous. So for example, I ran a marathon. I ran a marathon, which means that's a completed action. Whereas if you say, I was running in a marathon, that is past continuous, okay? That's past continuous. Or for example, I sat and did my homework, or I was sitting in a chair while doing my homework. So you can see the difference. There's a past simple, completed action, past continuous, a moment in the past that is done. Okay, so any questions about that? You do know where my email is. You can email me and we can talk about it. Okay, another thing as well is that we're looking at, when we did Unit 4, we were looking at places, we talked about articles. Okay, so we talked about articles. We went through this quite quickly, remember? So we have a, an, and the. Okay, so an and the. The is a definite article. It means just there's definition to it. Whereas a or an is an indefinite article. Okay, so take a left at this street, and then you'll be facing the Eiffel Tower. You take a left, and then you're facing the Eiffel Tower. You need to be careful how we use these, okay? The difference between a and an, if you use an as an indefinite article, it is followed by a vowel. Now what I mean by this is followed by a vowel. The word will begin with A, E, I, O, or U. So you need to be careful with your differences between a and an. Okay? It is something that takes practice, but there's sometimes when you are practicing, there is no article necessary. So you put a little dash in the middle of it. Okay? You put a little dash in the middle of it. Alright, so you put a dash in the middle of that sentence. Okay? Just remember, you will be getting some activities to practice over Easter to help you maintain that practice that we have been doing over the course of this term. Then finally, what we've been looking at as well is we have looked at different activities that we do, things that we've done, present perfect. Now remember, it's have or has and a past participle. So now remember, the most confusing part about this is you have your past simple, past participle. The most confusion is a lot of students would tend to use the past simple but need to use the past participle, especially when using present perfect. Present perfect for me is when you combine present and past in one sentence, but it's actually a past action which actually has an effect in the present. So it's a past action that goes into the present. So you need to be very, very careful on how you approach those different things, okay? And it requires a lot of practice, okay? So it requires a lot of practice, and that is why in your Unit 5 examination, you're going to be looking at this more closely. And some of the activities that you have been given for your portfolio uses that as well. Just remember, when using past questions, so for past simple questions, past continuous questions, where were you going last night? Or did he walk the dog last night? There are typical past questions. Just remember when you're using the verbs, goes the other way. You know, if you say I was, you were you, was I, or was he, was she, and so on. Always remember that in continuous it'd be was he, ... The verb has to be an ing at the end. So just be very, very careful with that. Also as well, when you're using present perfect, just to highlight on present perfect, you need to be careful on how you use it in context. So that's why we're using these different activities to practice using present perfect. You have ever and never, okay? So if you have, for example, if you remember, ever is up to now, never is not up to now, okay? I have just finished eating. Okay? Remember that if you're using a regular verb in a present perfect sentence, it's always with an ed. So an ed or relevant past simple ending in regular verbs, but in irregular verbs, it is slightly different. Okay? All right. So that's really the highlights of what you need to remember. Okay? Now let me explain what you will have to do for your exam. So for your exam, I am going to create 30 questions which practice on present perfect, okay? Which practice on the present perfect and the different forms of present perfect as well, okay? So it'll be 30 different questions. It might be a set of activities with some questions for each. Also, you will get a short writing task to complete as well. So you have a short writing task to complete as well for over the Easter break, and all answers must be typed. Okay, all answers must be typed on the computer and then sent to me. Roughly, you need to give yourself about 40 to 45 minutes to answer these questions. Okay, so about 40 to 45 minutes, roughly what you will have in class time. This will count for the other 80% or 8 out of 10 for this part. Okay, all right. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to contact me. All right, the last thing I want to talk about today. Now, some of you have been asking me about Trinity. Now, first of all, with Trinity, the deadline has now been extended because of what has happened with the coronavirus, COVID-19. The deadline has now been extended, okay? So, there's plenty of time for you to register at the moment, okay? Sorry, there was a little fly that's getting in my way. Now, I hope you all have some paper and a pen, because you're going to need this. Now, most of you last year did grade 4, okay? Now, you should be familiar that in grade 5 it is the same. It is the same idea. You will have 2 parts to your Trinity exam. You have your topic and you have your conversation, okay? In the topic, you have to prepare something that is personal to you, okay? That is personal to you in nature and something that you would want to talk about with an examiner for 5 minutes. Okay, so for 5 minutes you would like to talk about your topic and different things like that. Now, I'm going to be telling you next week how to do this properly, and then after Semana Santa and Easter, we can arrange for a Skype session and we can go through your topic, okay, and go through the different things there. Okay, so what you have to do, I need you to write down the following, because you need to know the following grammar for grade 5. You need to know present perfect. So grammar number 1, present perfect. Okay, including for, since, ever, never, just. Okay, so you need to know present perfect. That's why in this unit, I've been sort of highlighting the importance of this one, because this is a very important piece of grammar. The second one, connecting sentences with because. So if I ask you something, why? Because in spoken English, because it's it's a connecting word used mostly in spoken English. Number 3, will for future plans and for information and predicting. So informing and making a prediction. So for example, will you be studying for Trinity 6 next year? I hope so. I hope so. I hope you're studying for Trinity 6 next year. Okay. The next one, adjectives and adverbs of quantity. So like for example, a lot of, not very much, not very many, how much, how many. So it's looking at quantities, okay? And expressions of preference. I prefer, I rather, I prefer 7-Up to Coca-Cola, for example. There's example sentences there. Okay, I will be talking about this more in another video next week. Okay, so now, in the conversation, you need to be able to do the following. You need to be able to talk about the following. So the examiner will choose 2 subjects of the following. So you need to write down the following. These are the subject areas for Trinity 5. Festivals, means of transport, special occasions, for example, birthdays, weddings, different things like that. Entertainment, so like cinema, television, discos, that idea. Music, and recent personal experiences. So the examiner will choose 2 of these to discuss with you. Okay? Right. Another thing before I finish off, as you can see, hopefully you can see this okay. Now last year when you did your Trinity 4 topic, you had 4 boxes. For Trinity 5, you have 5 boxes. So you have 5 boxes to complete. Preferably, try and get with each box, when you're talking about your topic, talk about things that highlight present perfect, things that highlight your grammar, and also have enough information to ask the examiner. Also as well, have enough and also make room for at least 2 questions to ask the examiner. Because at Trinity 5, it's important you ask at least 2 questions. I would like you to be able to ask 2 questions. Okay, so that's just an introduction today. Next week, I'll be going through this in much more detail. Okay, all right. So, hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I will speak to you all next week, okay, before we finish for Easter. Any questions or anything you'd like to ask, please email me, okay? Anyone who hasn't emailed me, please email me as soon as possible. And also, everyone, get your work in as quickly as you can, please. Okay? Have a good week, and I will see you all next week. All right? Have a good week. Bye. Bye, everybody in Project 3. Bye.